On this episode of This Week in Space, Space.com reporter extraordinaire Mike Wall joins us to discuss the recent test flight of SpaceX's Starship. This episode of This Week in Space is brought to you by Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Cyber attackers are using AI in creative ways to compromise users and breach organizations. In a security landscape where you must fight AI with AI, the best AI protection comes from having the best data. Zscaler has extended its zero-trust architecture with powerful AI engines that are trained and tuned by 500 trillion daily signals. You can learn more about Zscaler's Zero Trust Plus AI to prevent ransomware and AI attacks. Experience your world secured. Visit zscaler.com/zerotrustai.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is This Week in Space, episode number 103, recorded on March 22nd, 2024, Starship's Orbital Feat. This episode of This Week in Space is brought to you by Wix Studio. Hey, instead of reading you another, let's be honest, boring ad script, Wix Studio just sent me this wild-looking website to scroll through and tell you about, so let's do that. I'm already excited because it's space-themed. I wonder if they made this just for us. I think so. All right, let's see what this scrolly telling is all about. There's an astronaut falling through clouds. Now two planets are crashing into each other, and this text is popping up as I scroll, and it's telling me about the search for other species, and hey, now we're talking. We got a spaceship. This is amazing. I feel like I'm in space, finally. It's wild how you could do all this without code. That's the cool part. So now it's your turn to lift off. You can build your next web projects on Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises. Go to wix.com/studio or click on the link on the show page to find out more. Hello and welcome to This Week in Space, the Starship's Orbital Feat edition. I'm Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief, Van Aster Magazine, and I'm here as always with the one and only, no I adjective today, Tarek Malik, editor-in-chief of space.com. Hello, dear sir.
Hello, Rod. Should we point out that we mean orbital feet, F-E-A-T, and that we're not like weirdos?
I thought of that right as I was saying it. But more importantly, we are joined by the incredible Michael Wall of space.com, the Jimmy Olsen of space.com. Hi, Mike.
Dr. Michael Wall. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, I think I'm a little too
Mike,
old to be a Jimmy Olsen, but I do appreciate it. Thanks. Hi, guys.
Well, but you're a doc, and that's pretty cool. What was your PhD in?
PhD evolutionary biology.
And how did you end up at space.com exactly? I guess we're going to find out.
That's a long story.
Okay, but it's probably a good one. Yeah, I've always admired people with PhDs, although I find you a little intimidating. Hey, but before we start, cue the groans. I have a space joke. Actually, this one's not too bad. Huh?
No, yeah, I'm ready for it.
Oh, from loyal listener Scott Ulrich. Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready?
Yeah.
Okay, really ready. Okay. Why was Elon Musk afraid to divorce his Martian wife?
Okay, this is very on point for today. Why?
Yes.
Why, Rod?
Because his first SpaceX was way too expensive. That's a Looney Tune moment. I like that one, actually.
That's good. That's clever.
I just left it for one today because that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one. 10 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah. So very good. So I just want to remind everybody before we move on to our next step with headlines here, please do us a solid and like, subscribe, and all those podcast things, because we need your support so we can keep coming here and doing this, because what more would you want to do with your hour than sit and hang out with the three of us?
Yeah.
And special announcement, and Tarek's fixed chair.
I fixed it.
I have had so much material torn from my poor little aging brain this week because he fixed that darn chair.
I got wheels.
I may no longer make. Okay, tell us your story, and then off we go.
Everybody knows that I've had this chair from my work from like pre-COVID. My Star Trek chair. It's blue and black, and it's a gaming chair. And about 2 years ago, the wheels started falling off, and then I've had it up on like.
Then you started falling off.
And then I started falling off during the recording of the show, which was really embarrassing. Yes. And I've had it up on blocks, specifically like the remnants of these wooden boards that we would break for Taekwondo. Like it's just been sitting on top of those broken boards for the last like 2 years. And
you just had to get macho on me, didn't you? On the boards that I personally smashed with my forehead.
I can break 3 boards in a row with my foot. So, but I finally bought a whole replacement base, all the parts for it. It took one hammer and that was it. Some gravity. And I got the chair fixed. So now I can move around. I can have good posture. It's ergonomic. And I can play my video game, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Most importantly, and were the boards bloody? I mean, are they like trophy boards or just broken boards?
Yeah, they're not bloody. I mean, I broke them with my feet, if that's what you mean.
Yeah,
and they were just half
Bruce Lee movies. There was always blood flying around when he was doing that.
Well, you're not doing it right if you cut your foot open.
Well,
if you do it right, it's not supposed to hurt
these things.
a lot.
Okay,
you shouldn't break anything. So,
all right. So that was thrilling and gratifying to hear. All right. So on to headlines.
I didn't even need Scotty's help to fix my Star Trek.
The first two are from space.com. We got a Soyuz rocket aborting during an ISS launch, which is a very unusual thing. We've seen it twice before.
Well, we've had a few aborts like this week, but we've had 2 in-flight aborts.
This was a pad abort, right?
Yeah, and this was a pad abort where they aborted before liftoff itself. But still rare. The Soyuz is the workhorse rocket for Russia and Roscosmos. It had an American, Tracy Caldwell Dyson, on it, and Russian Oleg Novitsky, one of the, I guess he's going to have the most flying time ever, cumulative, of anyone in space, according to NASA after the end of this mission. And then a newcomer, and I want to make sure I pronounce her name right, Marina Vasilevskaya, and she is a spaceflight participant from Belarus, flying on a 12-day mission for this. The other 2 are going up there for 6 months, and they were all in their rocket, waiting for liftoff, and they got down to about the 20-second mark on this one. This is, of course, at Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, and something happened. What they think happened is that it triggered an automatic abort, which means the rocket didn't take off. And what Russian engineers think happened is that they have a power issue in the booster itself. NASA said today in a press conference that it was a low voltage detection in a power system on the booster. And they don't know if it's a quick fix or not, because they're still targeting like another launch try tomorrow as we're recording this. But whether or not they actually try for that or they need more time to fix it, we'll have to wait and see. But a real busy time for the space station for this to be happening. They need these flights to go kind of regularly because they've got a lot of visiting vehicles flying. SpaceX has, of course, their Crew 7 astronauts that have to return home from the space station after this crew gets there. And then after that, there's another crewed flight in May that we're going to talk about in a little bit, with Boeing's first Starliner mission. And SpaceX right now has a cargo ship that's going to dock tomorrow as we're recording this episode, that just launched on the same day as this abort. Like 7 hours later, they launched a SpaceX cargo ship from Florida to get there too. So we're just trying to wait and see like what happened. But thankfully, Tracy Caldwell Dyson, Oleg Novitsky, Marina Vasilevskaya, they were safe the whole time. Like nothing happened while they were up there with a fully fueled but aborted rocket, and they were able to disembark after they defueled it, and kind of go about their day and prepare for flight. So we're waiting right now. I expect, as we're recording this, it's a Friday. I expect some kind of an update at like 6 p.m. to come out of the NASA machine to say, no, we're not, or yes. So, or Mike knows what's more than we do. So
yeah, they actually already gave an update. They're clear to actually launch tomorrow morning, Saturday morning,
wow,
March 23rd at like 8:36 a.m. So like whatever that problem was, they got it fixed pretty fast, and now
so Vladimir got down there with his sledgehammer and whacked on a few things. So
they plugged in the extension cord.
So this rocket, just before we move on, since we've got Mike here who knows everything that we don't, which is quite a lot actually. This rocket's been, there've been incremental improvements, but basically the design dates back to, I think, first flown in 1965, right?
Yeah, it's
rocket and the crew capsule.
Yeah, both of them. They've been flying in the same basic configuration for like many decades now.
Forever.
Yeah.
So what about, as I recall, there was going to be a replacement called Angara, I think. Did that get mothballed?
No, it's still in development. We shall see. You know, there are occasional updates about it, and
It's slower than SLS, if that's possible.
Yeah, it is. It's still we're still waiting to hear when that might get up and running. But yeah, I mean,
there was a test launch of the Angara rocket. Was there not some kind of prototype? No, maybe not. I have a half memory of it. I could be wrong about
Maybe they're growing it like a stalagmite or something.
I should point out that we did some research, and there was the in-flight abort with Nick Hague and a cosmonaut in 2018 in October or 2018, I believe. And then there was another in-flight abort in the earlier days of the Soyuz program. There was a pad abort, according to Robert Perlman at Collect Space, in 2018 of a Progress vehicle on a Soyuz rocket. No crew on that one.
Right.
But those were the ones that we could find in recent memory. So
pretty darn reliable.
Yeah, pretty rare to see this thing happen at the last second like this. So
very reliable for something running on vacuum tubes. All right. Also from space.com, as I said, one must chuckle before reading. Boeing says Starliner is ready for its big crew test. Woohoo! What's a Starliner? Uncle Tarek, tell me.
Well,
do they fly in space? No.
As we have discussed a few times in the past, Boeing is building, well, back in 2014, so this is 10 years ago now. 10 years ago, NASA picked Boeing and SpaceX as its commercial crew providers, the companies that were going to build private spaceships and launch astronauts to Mars for, I guess a fraction of what it would cost for NASA to build and its own fleet of spacecraft. Boeing got $4.2 billion under that contract. It was that's like the max amount they're supposed to get, and the initial flights. And SpaceX got $2.6 billion. Since then, SpaceX has launched like 11 times for NASA and Boeing for astronauts, and Boeing has not been able to get its astronauts up in space. In fact, 2 years ago, 2022, was when they launched their second uncrewed test flight to make up for the first one in 2019 that didn't make it to the space station. Now, that second one did work all right, but in 2023, they found out that it had like hundreds of feet or actually more than a mile at least of flammable tape inside. And then also it had parachute problems where they weren't rated to handle an off-nominal parachute load, which required a redesign. And so now, after all that work's done, they say that they're finally ready to go. They have said no earlier than May 1st. So they actually said a day. That was today, actually, as we're recording, that they're going to target that day. Launch on an Atlas V from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The Atlas V is undergoing integration right now. They've fueled the Starliner for launch. That's a big step right there, because once they fuel the actual capsule.
Excuse me, when you say fueled, you talk about maneuvering.
Yeah, all of the stuff that it's going to need to use once it's in space. Not the rocket. This is just the space capsule, and that.
But this is a test of the valves, which have been a challenge. So
that's right. Well, and they will be fixing those valves for Starliner 1, not for this mission, but I believe for Starliner 1 they're going to have those fixed. If memory serves, it could be the second one. But they're building Starliner 1 now, which is the operational flight. They hope to get, if this mission goes well, and of course this has Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore on board, who have been training for this flight for a very long time. In fact, this flight's been so delayed that International Space Station astronaut Jeanette Epps, who was originally supposed to fly on this one, on a Starliner operational flight, flew on a SpaceX mission and is already on the station now. So,
the other guy, what was his name? Sorry, it's
Mike Fink. Mike Fink was on this test flight.
No, but there's another one that had been with them for easily over a decade, who said, "Look, I got to retire before this thing flies."
That was the former astronaut Chris. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I'm really.
We're both having senior moments at the same time.
Who actually was the lead Boeing astronaut for developing this one, and he didn't end up retiring. Yeah, I know, you put so much work into the mission, and there you go. But I mean, it seems like everything is set. The Steve Stitch at NASA said today that they are really confident that they've ironed out all of the issues. Mark Nappy, Starliner program manager said that they feel like they have addressed all of the issues that they know about. Big test on this one. It's the first crew on board. You want the ECLS systems, the life support systems, to go correctly. They're going to try some manual flight modes. They're going to do docking. They're going to do undocking, cargo moving back and forth. Lots of big stuff for this flight. So it'd be very interesting to see it, and we hope it goes off without a hitch, because they're on the hook to fly at least 6 of these, six, and that's the NASA contract. Whether or not they opt to extend Starliner's life for commercial crew like SpaceX has for Dragon, flying private missions and tourist flights, we don't know. We don't know at this point. It doesn't seem like they have any plans yet beyond NASA's needs for this point. Apparently,
it's hard to build space capsules.
Yeah, very
even if you've worked on rockets since 1950X. All snarkiness aside, I mean, we wish them lots of luck. It's just been so frustrating to watch them get this almost double the award of SpaceX and then fumble the ball so many times. But there you go. Okay, last one from Space News. Chandra on ice. Love that.
Yeah. Well, this is just a quick update. The NASA budget did come out, or at least their budget request recently. I think last week, if memory serves, and there was not. I mean, there's a lot of hemming and hawing and hand wringing by NASA Chief Bill Nelson and others. Because there were some painful cuts in this one, and one of the biggest is a plan to basically start winding down the Chandra X-ray space telescope. And this is a space telescope that's been kind of the X-ray version of Hubble for a good long time since its launch. And basically it's going down to from a current budget. So it received about 68.3 million in 2023. It's going to get cut by 40%. Down to 41 million in this request for 2025, and then more cuts in 2026, and then eventually it will just be like 5 million a year in 2029, and that's basically like let's shut it down mode. At that point in time, analyzing data, making sure that it's safe and whatnot. A lot of and the rationale for this is because they're saying that there's been like a reduction in Chandra's capabilities over time to the point that it makes it, not worth the investment that, say, upgrading Hubble, which was built to be upgraded with new instruments over time and keeping that alive, warrants. So scientists are really upset about this because it means that they're going to have to plan to wind it down, which they can't take on new science with it. The science that they're doing now has a shelf life or an end date, if you will, where they have to stop that so they can start the winding down process. And a lot of folks think that there's just a lot more science that they could do. And we've seen evidence of this in the past when the Spitzer Space Telescope ran out of coolant to keep it cold to the standards that NASA needed for infrared astronomy. They did kind of turn it over to Caltech, right? Your old kind of stomping ground. And they ran it for a while doing other science that they could wring out of that space telescope for a while.
Well, and then look at Kepler.
Exactly.
I mean, that thing was a wreck, and they said, oh, wait a minute, we can re-aim it, I think, using solar wind pressure, right?
Yeah, they did.
And
all
have the K2 mission, which went on for years and years.
And or NEOWISE too, after it ran out of coolant to keep itself cold for the WISE asteroid one. They found all sorts of near-Earth asteroids and whatnot too. We'll see. This is a budget request. And we've seen, you and I have seen, Rod, these types of proposed cuts over time. And then they ended up not going through. There were plans to cut Spirit and Opportunity while they were still alive on Mars, so that they could save up some money for other things, and they chose not to do that.
Forget New Horizons.
That's right. And New Horizons.
Why would you want to bother to keep talking to a spacecraft that was out beyond the edge of the solar system? That was really weird.
That's right.
All right.
So we'll see how it all goes. But basically, we're just keep Chandra in your thoughts, everybody. And let's see where this budget request actually lands.
All right. Well, I would love to continue the excitement, but we have an important man waiting here. So let's go to a quick snicker. Listen to that. Let's go to a quick ad break, and we'll be right back. Go nowhere. So, Mike, it's very good to see you. I think the last time I actually saw you in person was up in the gallery at the high bay at JPL, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you remember what that was for? What mission that was? Was that Perseverance?
I think it was Perseverance.
Yeah, that seems like it must have been.
Because we interviewed that guy.
Ken Farley.
Ken Farley, thank you.
Yeah.
Boy, Tarek and I are going to need to start taking our brain focus.
Yeah. And,
that guy over there with the white suit on.
Like, was the Boeing, was the Starliner guy Chris Ferguson? That's the name that popped into my head.
Yeah. Tarek did finally get that one.
I get there in the end.
He always gets there eventually. So let's talk about you, Mike. You've been at space.com, not as long as Tarek, but long enough to watch the moss grow. And have an exciting, you're kind of like I forget your exact title, but you're the senior reporter there now, right?
Well, I guess in terms of service time, I've been there since 2010. So yeah, I've seen a lot of change over that time in the space flight world. It's kind of blown up. I mean, like I remember when I started, the industry was pretty much being covered by some trade publications and a few dedicated websites. And now it's just totally mainstream. You know, New York Times has a dedicated space reporter, and most of the big magazines do, and stuff like that. So it's changed so much in the time that I've been there.
And blogs and YouTube. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was going to say, because when you say the big magazines we were discussing before we came on the air, there are precious few of them.
Yeah. No, that's another thing. Yeah.
So you're kind of interesting to me. Well, you're very interesting to me, but in particular because guys like Tarek and myself were interested in space and interested in science and interested in technology, and then started going that path and said, "Hey, this math stuff is really hard, huh? Maybe I'll be a writer." And then, of course, Tarek was strongly encouraged by his journalism teacher, who said, "What did he say? This is the worst thing I've ever seen," or something.
Oh, yeah. Did I tell that story? Yeah, he told me that in every class there was that student that had no talent whatsoever, and I was the guy.
Oh my God!
But he told him that after he realized that he had all the talent, so that was kind of cool. But in stark contrast, here comes Mike Wall with a PhD who says, "Well, I'd really rather write about this stuff than do the research that you're going to pay me $500,000 a year to do, plus shares in the company or whatever your trajectory was." Can you tell us how that came about?
Well, I don't know. I'd always been of two minds, you know. I'd always loved writing too, and I went to like undergrad. I also majored in like history, like as well as the whole biology thing we were talking about. And so I was always conflicted, and I did the biology thing for a while and decided that I didn't necessarily want to go into academia because I had friends doing it, and it didn't seem like they were having all that much fun. And I wanted to write, and I didn't want to get to kind of like graybeard days that I'm entering now and be like, oh, I really wish I would have tried that writing thing. So I went and did a science journalism course at UC Santa Cruz. And I initially thought I'd be writing about biology and kind of life sciences stuff. And like, in fact, I originally applied for a job at Live Science, one of Space.com's sister sites, but I think Tarek reached out and said, actually, we've got a greater need at space.com. Would you consider writing about space? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I took an astronomy class in college at the University of Arizona. So sure.
I think it was Rob Britt, right? Rob Britt at the time.
Yeah.
Talked to you about that, right?
Yeah, it was Rob. Yep.
My Pabu.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and it's not like I had no interest in astronomy. I was interested in it, but I hadn't really considered it to the extent that it was going to be a career. But once I got into it, it just became super interesting. And like, I've been able to kind of keep the biology kind of focus alive a little bit too, with reporting on like exoplanets and the search for alien life. And that sort of stuff is really exciting. And I think it'll only get more exciting as we go forward, because that stuff is really ramping up. You know, we're actively searching for life on Mars with Perseverance, and people are hoping to get those samples back from Mars that Perseverance is collecting. And I mean, who knows what they're going to find. And it's just like, as we learn more about
cost.
Yeah, well, that's another issue, right? I mean, we shall see. But like, yeah, I mean, you were mentioning Kepler, Rod, and like that mission showed us that like every star in the sky that we see has on average more than one planet, and a lot of those planets are in the habitable zone. So all that stuff is happening just in the time since I joined space.com. Like, that sort of exoplanet revolution has been unfolding before our eyes. And so there is a lot of biology that you can kind of get into in the astronomy world, as people are now realizing. So it's just kind of interesting how it all came together. Well,
and as cool as all that is, you've also written a book. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, about 5 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it is about the ongoing search for alien life and where that might be headed. I mean, it's called Out There, and it kind of looks at where we've come and where we're going and what the chances might be for finding alien life. And I'm an optimist. I think that the chances of microbial life in our solar system and the like wider universe are really high. I don't know about intelligent life, but I mean, if you look at like life on Earth, I mean, this is a basic argument that you can make just from what happened here on Earth, and it's like an n=1. So take that for what it's worth. You know, we don't have a big sample size, but if what happened here on Earth is any indication, then it's not hard for life to get going, because Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago, right? And for the first 500 million years, it was really, really hot and kind of a lava world. And basically, like as soon as we cooled down enough to host oceans and look something like our modern world, that's when life got started. You know, we got fossils, kind of microfossils that go back almost 4 billion years. So that sort of implies that it's not that hard for life to get going. And if it happened really fast here, why wouldn't it happen really fast elsewhere? So, I mean, I think there's reason to be optimistic about microbial life, but then it took about 3 billion years or more for microbial life to become animal life. So I think that's like the big hurdle. There must be something about going kind of multicellular that's really hard. So maybe there's not complex life. That's probably not that common, but I think microbial life is probably pretty common across the universe. But
I think my brain's actually reverse evolving or devolving into being a single cellular organism. So we just had Pascal Lee on here the other day, who is a proponent of the cold, dry Mars past, which is kind of swimming upstream against an awful lot of people, including those folks at Caltech that Tarek was referencing, that are a warm, wet Mars in the past, even though it defies a lot of their modeling. So given that, and given that Mars was apparently, at least by some estimations, verdant and could support life long before Earth could have reliably, are you a fan of the panspermia idea or not so much?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to say. There are some really smart people who think that life probably originated on Mars first, just because, like you're saying, it's a little smaller, so it cooled down faster and was kind of life friendly first prior to Earth. So if like we were just talking about, life can emerge pretty quickly on a suitable world, then Mars was the suitable world in our solar system first, probably. So, and there are all these, I mean, we get pieces of Mars on Earth, not terribly uncommonly. You know, asteroid impacts eject stuff into space, and if it's headed toward the sun, Earth's gravity will intercept some of it. That's way more common than the other way around, pieces of Earth landing on Mars, you know, because Mars is out beyond the sun, so stuff's not going to go out there as much as it gets sucked toward the sun. So if life is moving from one world to the other, just kind of orbitodynamic state, that probably it's more common to come from Mars to Earth. I don't know. I mean, that's just total speculation. I would not be surprised if life originated on Mars, but the only data point we have is there is life on Earth. So I don't know. You can speculate where it came from, but I think the most parsimonious kind of explanation is that it's here because it arose here. So that's the starting point, and then we can kind of speculate from there. But
I do believe that's the first use of the word parsimonious on this show ever.
I've never heard it.
And beyond that,
and panspermia and all of this stuff, man. I got to get a dictionary out here.
And beyond that, he solved the Mars sample returned budget problem right there. It's already here.
If people want to get to the bottom of that, I mean, people want to know if there's life on Mars, right? I mean, Perseverance could, I mean, it's like, who knows? It seems a real shame. It's already collected a couple dozen of these things. It's going to leave them
just sitting out there, baking
just sitting on the ground. Yeah, like we should go get them. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I mean, given where they were collected from, I'd be so surprised if they're anything other than dead sterile. But as my parsimonious partner here has just pointed out, Rod, get on to Starship already, because we're almost halfway through. So tell us about our big test. What were the high points? What were the low points? What does it all mean?
Well, yeah, there was the third fully stacked test flight of Starship last week, March 14th, and it was the most successful to date, like by far, of the three. You know, the first one was last April, the second one was last November. That first one, you know, it was the first test flight, so there were a lot of problems, as you might expect, like the two stages of Starship, which is guess we should explain what Starship is first, shouldn't we?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's my next question. It's like, what is Starship?
So, it's the giant. And see, this kind of follows in from that long Mars tangent that we just had, right? Because Starship is the giant rocket that SpaceX is developing to help humanity get to Mars and set up shop on Mars. That's that's been Elon Musk's like kind of long held dream. He said repeatedly that's why he started SpaceX more than 20 years ago, was to make that like a feasible thing that we can do, bring the cost of spaceflight down enough that we can actually launch enough missions there to set up a city and extend our footprint kind of beyond Earth. So Starship, after many incarnations, is the vehicle that SpaceX thinks can make that happen. And it flew for the first time last April. Like I was saying, it didn't do that well. That it's not unexpected for a first test flight. It has 2 stages. They failed to separate.
It didn't do that well is nice Mike speak, I think. For it exploded 2 minutes after liftoff.
Disassembled.
4 minutes after liftoff.
Yeah, it did. It did twice as well as Tarek says. But no,
and I saw that. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you were there for it. It was the first test flight of this giant rocket, biggest rocket ever built, most powerful ever built. It would have been shocking if it actually didn't blow up. But like the 2 stages didn't separate. It was tumbling, and then it was detonated on purpose just for safety reasons. And then they made some changes and had to get the launch pad back in order because the launch pad at Starbase in South Texas was damaged by that original launch. And once they got everything up and running in November, like that one went better. They changed the stage separation system. They changed it to a hot staging system, which means that the upper stage engines start firing like before the 2 stages are fully separated. That worked. The 2 stages separated. The plan was to send the giant upper stage spaceship, which is like 165 feet tall, send it partway around Earth, have it splash down in the Pacific near Hawaii. That didn't happen. The upper stage blew up about 8 minutes after launch, and they wanted to bring the first stage, which is called Super Heavy, this giant booster that's got 33 engines. They wanted to bring it down for a splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. That didn't happen either. It also blew up. But that second flight was over after 8 minutes. And so we get to the third flight, which was last week. They had a different trajectory.
March 14th. Yeah.
March 14th. They wanted to send the upper stage spacecraft in a different direction toward the Indian Ocean for a splashdown there. They still wanted to bring Super Heavy down in the Gulf of Mexico. They almost succeeded in getting Super Heavy down safely. Got like a successful stage separation. They did a boost back burn on Super Heavy, which was to orient it for landing. During the landing burn, it didn't go according to plan, and about like 1,600 feet above the Gulf of Mexico, they actually lost Super Heavy. It didn't do its landing, but still, it's pretty close. And with the upper stage, they got it to reach orbital velocity. They got it on the trajectory for a splashdown in the Gulf of, or in the Indian Ocean, but it broke apart during reentry to Earth's atmosphere about 49 minutes after launch. So yeah, they did a lot more. They even did a few little experiments on the second stage during the coast. They actually opened its like payload bay doors, which is where the like satellites will come out on an operational flight. They did like a propellant transfer demonstration, which will be really important for future Starship flights when they go to Earth orbit and they're going to have to refuel for the trip to Mars or the Moon. They did that, and apparently that went pretty well, although we haven't heard a ton of details about that. Mm-hmm. So they like did these little side experiments that seemed to go well, and they just couldn't. It seemed like like the upper stage was it was rolling a little bit when it was coming into the atmosphere, and that may have had something to do with why it didn't survive. But I'm sure they're already busy working on the craft for the fourth flight, which actually they've said they want to launch maybe in early May or so, so we could see another try soon.
May, wow.
Well, I guess they sorry, just one quick thing. They never seem to do one of these launches without having at least one camera angle of Boca Chica that shows like 3 or 4 of these things lined up.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how much of that is set dressing and how much of that is okay. These are going next.
Oh yeah, it is not.
Tarek apparently does.
Yeah, it is. It is not. You drive out there. Yeah.
No, but when I say that, I mean, at the rate that they improve and upgrade the things and have to make changes, I don't know how many of those are actually going to fly. Do you?
Yeah. No, and I mean they could theoretically make some changes after they've been partially constructed and stuff like that. But yeah, they're already looking toward the next test flight, like just yeah, I mean right away, because that's the whole SpaceX philosophy, right? You build, you fly, and then you iterate based on how the flight went. So that's another thing to make clear, is that when something blows up in flight or like whatever for SpaceX, it's not like a disaster like it would be for a NASA rocket, where if the like giant NASA rocket that we could talk about in a bit, their new moon rocket, if the space lost if it blew up on its first flight, that would have been just a huge disaster.
Well, and if it blew up a second time, that'd be really bad.
Yeah.
It's like, whoops.
True. But yeah, they fully expect to have problems on their first few test flights, and then they'll identify what caused those problems and then iron it out in future flights. That's just how they work.
People will compare Starship to they need like a landmark to compare it to. SpaceX likes to say, it's the same size as Mechagodzilla or whatever. But they know what the Saturn V rockets were. They knew, how big they were. They went to the moon. And so just in terms of like numbers for Starship, how big is it? How does it rate to Saturn V? And I guess, when you say that, this one, flew higher, flew faster, was this their big win? Because it feels like from what everyone was saying last week, but as we're recording this, that they turned some kind of corner, reaching this kind of orbital speed milestone if they didn't circle the entire planet, once, to make an actual orbit.
Yeah, no, I mean, getting to orbital velocity was a really big milestone for the third flight, and I think they have celebrated that, probably rightly so. It's no small feat on the third test flight to notch that milestone. And yeah, I mean, it is like a nice marker to compare it to. People know about the Saturn V, or at least people of a certain age know about the Saturn V. That was 365 or 363 feet tall was the Saturn V. The kind of current version of Starship is 397 or kind of thereabouts, maybe about just, give or take like a foot or two. It's a
30-story building taller than a Saturn V. Is
it's
that right?
Huge.
Or,
yeah. It's just about 400 feet tall. And,
or a 3-story building taller. Sorry.
Yeah. And it's way more power. Well, I mean, in terms of thrust at liftoff, which is one easy way to compare it, it's about 16.7 million pounds of liftoff thrust for Starship, and that's like more than twice what the Saturn V could generate. So it's the biggest and most powerful rocket ever built. Starship is.
Why is it made out of stainless steel?
Okay, before we get into
that, sorry, yeah, that's my next question. So.
As we put in the scroll, we need to take an ad break, so we will be right back. Stay with us.
Yeah, so I guess I left the cat out of the bag for my next question. So most rockets that we see are made out of like super thin or whatever aluminum. NASA paints them white, and or I guess NASA doesn't paint them at all, right? The SLS is like all orange and white. Yeah. But SpaceX made theirs out of stainless steel, so it's like a bright, shiny tin rocket.
Well, hearkening back to the original Atlas, right?
I mean, is that why? I don't know. I mean, Mike, do you know why they picked stainless steel for that? Yeah. Well, there was a big conversation about this. Like back in its original kind of incarnation, or what they thought Starship was going to be, back when it was called like the Mars Colonial Transporter, or like the interplanetary transport system, or the Big Falcon rocket. It's had these various incarnations over the past decade or so, the same basic rocket, the same basic idea, giant rocket, get people to Mars. But when it was first conceived, and in the early years, they thought they were going to build it out of like carbon kind of fiber composite stuff, which is very high tech. It's really good for space flight because it's strong and it's durable, and it can deal with like heating loads and stuff like that. But it's also really expensive. And for SpaceX's vision of building tons and tons of these things and flying them a lot, I mean, especially testing them a lot when you're going to lose them. I mean, they decided eventually about 5 years ago or so that they're going to go stainless steel because it's pretty common, it's pretty cheap. And yeah, I mean, it works like kind of well enough for space flight, they determined through their testing. And so that has ended up kind of saving them lots and lots of money, I would expect, like, especially if you expect to be building dozens and dozens of these things, those price point differences in the construction material really make a huge difference.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. You know, I'm sure you've been down to Hawthorne to the headquarters there, and you walk in there and it's like the General Motors of rockets. You know, there's second stages stacked up over here and neuter stages lined up over here and so forth. And if you're going to do this kind of assembly line thing that he's been trying to do, you probably want a material like that's got well-known characteristics and will do the job.
I feel like I'm the only one here who has not been to the SpaceX rocket factory. So,
well, I think that's only fair that I've done something. And of course, that's in the Ad Astra travel budget, right? Because it's $14 worth of gas from me. Mike, you know, one of the things that we talk about, you know, why Starship is that it's supposed to be ultimately fast to build, cheap to maintain, and of course reflyable, which is the big thing that nobody else has mastered before SpaceX, and they haven't mastered it with Starship yet, but they will, we think. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and about the Raptor engine, and you know how that design of so many small engines burning methane is kind of all about reusability too.
Yeah, well, that's the big key for Starship compared to the Saturn V. You know, we're talking about how tall they are and how much thrust they have and all that stuff. But what's really important is obviously Starship is built to be fully reusable, rapidly reusable. I mean, they've said that they want to refly both stages, like, I mean, multiple times per day, theoretically. I mean, there's this vision. Elon Musk has set up this vision where they'll launch a Starship. This is at some point in the future when it's operational. And the like super heavy booster will come back for a landing, you know, just like the Falcon 9 boosters do. But their vision for Starship is for the giant booster to come back and actually land on the orbital pad or on the orbital launch mount. And it'll be caught by these giant kind of chopstick arms that the launch tower has. And then they can just refurbish it right there, reinspect it, and fly it again, like within a day or so, or maybe even less. So that's the kind of order of reusability that they're targeting with Starship. Whereas, you know, Saturn V was a fly it once and it's done vehicle. Same with the Space Launch System, which is the new NASA moon rocket. And yeah, that's designed to make Mars settlement, moon settlement, that sort of thing economically feasible. But like the engines, it's a different engine on Starship than they use on the Falcon 9 or the Falcon Heavy. Those are fueled by like a kerosene kind of derivative, RP1, with like liquid oxygen as an oxidizer. They've gone a different route with the Raptor engines for Starship that still uses liquid oxygen, but the other component is actually liquid methane. And that was designed with Mars in mind, because like you can theoretically make methane on Mars without too much difficulty from the atmosphere. You know, carbon dioxide is the dominant component of the Martian atmosphere, and you can do some chemical reactions and draw Martian air in and get methane out without too much difficulty. So that was all part of the consideration for what the Raptor engine is going to burn and why they settled on like liquid methane. So you can have these little these kind of like production facilities on Mars where they're making propellant for the starships that are landing there and then flying off again. So that's all part of the picture.
It just seems weird. You know, I follow what you're saying, but it's not like it's hard to get hydrogen on Mars either. And
but
that works well as a fuel.
Yeah, but it's also, you know, hydrogen is such a small molecule, and people who were watching when NASA kept trying to fly Artemis 1, they kept having hydrogen leaks because that's the propellant for the Space Launch System. It's just harder to deal with, I think, for a lot. I mean, I'm no rocket engineer, but a lot of people that you talk to about it say, you know, hydrogen is pretty tricky. It just, I mean, leaks very, very easily. So everything has to just be perfect for it to all stay in place. And I mean, maybe that's a consideration too for SpaceX, why they went with this different fuel. But yeah.
So I love Tarek. You know, he's here with us. I pulled back the blankets on our grief about, you know, running into math walls when we were undergraduates. He says, I'm no engineer, but okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, so, you know, there was, I guess one of the big things I wanted to ask you about was, you know, why, as soon as they launch this, they get these big accolades from NASA, and obviously SpaceX is a big NASA contractor. They fly astronauts to the International Space Station, and I guess they're planning to use Starship for that too. We've talked about that in the past, but Bill Nelson said after this launch, he says that Starship has soared into the heavens, and that it's making great strides through the Artemis to return humanity to the moon and then look onward to Mars. And it sounds like they've got NASA. The collective at NASA have a lot riding on Starship, just as much as SpaceX does, right? Because they've made some choices when it comes to SpaceX's Starship that are going to affect their plans to get to the moon. Is that right?
They certainly have. Yeah, they just a couple of years ago, actually, NASA chose Starship as the first lunar lander, first kind of astronaut carrying lunar lander for the Artemis program, which wants to set up like one or more moon bases near the south pole of the moon. And so their current schedule calls for Starship to be used for the first time to do just that on the Artemis 3 mission, which is supposed to launch in about 2.5 years, kind of like third quarter of 2026. And so, yeah, NASA does have a lot riding on Starship's development and success. They're like hoping that it's ready to carry astronauts on a moon mission to the lunar surface, not just lunar orbit, by kind of late 2026. And I mean, who knows if that's going to happen?
I was going to say, so Flight 3, the fact that Flight 3 went so well means that's fine, right? That they don't have any trouble getting there, right?
I mean, put in a few seats in Starship and it's just ready to go. No, they still need to do life support and all that. And I don't know how many times they're going to need to fly successfully before NASA's comfortable putting astronauts on board. Like, there are going to be a lot of test flights before people go on board.
Including one to the moon, right? I think that SpaceX had to add an uncrewed Starship landing on the moon.
Yeah, they're going to have to do one uncrewed test flight to the moon. But I'm sure there are going to be dozens and dozens more that just go to Earth orbit or that just launch satellites. Like this thing is going to get a workout before people get on board.
So I had two more questions about that, because you mentioned it's like 165 feet tall, the Starship part of it, right?
Yeah.
How do you get down off of that? Right. I think Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin had on the moon. Had a few. They had a few steps on a ladder to walk down. But man, ladder.
I'm not sure what the latest design kind of choice is for that. I mean, it would have to be an elevator of some sort, or you have just like a snazzy fireman pole running the the length of the spacecraft. I don't know. I mean, I'm not up to speed on what their latest designs call for.
So I can answer that question. I can answer what we should do, because if you grew up and I did, and you saw movies like Destination Moon and others, you know that you just toss down a rope with knots in it, because that's what they used to do. Tarek, I know you've got another burning question, and I'm sorry you have a burning problem, but we do have to take one more quick break, and we'll be right back. So stay with us.
Well, most of my questions now are about what's coming up ahead, because obviously Flight 4 you're talking about, Mike, is set for May. Maybe the first astronauts land with Artemis in 2026. But SpaceX is building this for Mars, and initially, I think back in 2016 when they first announced it, they hinted at point-to-point travel, and I saw some other recent contract let come out of either DARPA or the Pentagon for these kind of site-to-site cargo, and a lot of the renderings look a lot like Starship too. So I guess the question is, what is the business case for Mars now? I guess, or does it all hinge on a successful moon landing to show that they can use these vehicles reusably over and over again to achieve their missions there?
Well, first, can we say how funny it would be if the fourth Starship test flight, if it does go on May 1st, the same day Starliner flies astronauts for the first time, that would be very sad for Starliner.
I didn't even think about that.
It would just overshadow Starliner's much, I don't know, highly anticipated crew flight. But I mean, that remains to be seen. But I don't know if you have to make a Mars business case for Starship, because SpaceX wants to use it for everything. They eventually want to use it to launch all of their big Starlink satellites. Their more capable ones that they're developing. They want to use it to launch all the other satellites that they get contracted to launch. It's not to say that's going to happen immediately. Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy are both flight-proven rockets, and a lot of customers will want to keep flying on them. But kind of the long haul like kind of long-term vision for SpaceX is that they're going to use Starship for pretty much everything. And that actually includes point-to-point transportation. You know, SpaceX has talked about using it as like a super fast Concorde, basically, you know, taking people from one spot to another on the globe. I mean, anywhere basically in an hour or like 90 minutes, whatever it is. So like, I think that the thought process is you get tons of revenue from all these different use cases for Starship. And I mean, one of those use cases, like you were saying, that the US military has definitely talked to them and is interested in using Starship to put cargo down in various places. You know, it like launches vertically, can take off vertically, so on and so forth. You don't need a runway, and it's huge, and it can deliver lots of cargo. So maybe they get a contract to like deliver stuff to out of the way places that planes can't land and stuff like that. But all of that and point to point, you know, I mean, rich folks who want to get from like New York to Dubai in an hour or something, all that's part of what's going to pay for everything. And then there'll be enough money left over for Elon and for SpaceX to do Mars missions too. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't see a Mars business case anytime in the near future. I don't know. Maybe I don't know who's going to pay them aside from like NASA, who wants to set up a Mars research outpost. But yeah, I don't know. That's like pretty far down the road.
Teacher, I know the answer. At least I know the one that was given to me. So I asked Gwynne Shotwell that exact question before 7 years ago. And she looked me square in the eye and said, "Oh, that's pretty simple. Once we get the cost down to effectively a medium home mortgage, which back in those days would have been about $250,000, people would just want to go."
Yeah.
I said, okay. And, you know, I kind of felt like she was in the back of her eyelids reading off the company script, because this is a bit of editorial, but she kind of looked about as convinced as I was hearing the answer. But I can't say that with any strength. But
you say that, but like people are dropping $20 million just to go to the space station.
That's true. However, Mars is a little longer, and since we still don't know what it's going to be like, you're going to be stacked. Speaking of Pez dispenser arrangements, you're going to be stacked in there like a bunch of Pez with probably one toilet for 80 people.
That's a question I had, because in 2016 when Elon.
Oh, well, go right ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, no, I was going to ask. I mean, how many people can ride this thing? Because NASA's Artemis missions are like, you know, a crew of 4, maybe 2 make the landing, if not all 4. And Elon had said that they were going to send 100 people on this thing. There is at least one private mission that I know of that goes around the moon, the Dear Moon mission, that has maybe 8 people. 8 people,
eight or 9, I think. Yeah.
So that's like a shotgun range of who can fly on it. I mean, what is there a capacity that they've said is like a minimum or a maximum?
Well, and if I may, related to this question, if you could also discuss this, we have not yet in all these years seen a single interior rendering from SpaceX.
Well, we've seen those ones where like there's like a concert going on with the big windows, and there's like
those are fanciful. I'm talking about like a CAD rendering. Anyway.
Yeah. No, we don't know. I mean, like you guys are saying, we don't know anything about the life support system. You know, people have actually asked Elon that, and he's like, well, you know, we like did it for Dragon. We'll use a variant of what we do for Dragon, which
I asked him that.
Yeah.
In 2019, I asked him that.
And he looked you square in the eye and basically said, how hard can it be?
That's right. That's exactly what he said.
That's basically, that's what he said. And I mean, he has reason to be confident. They've obviously done some great things, but this is another level, right? This thing is 165 feet tall. And yeah, I mean, if you just kind of follow Elon's Twitter feed, X feed, sorry, he recently did kind of reuse that like 100-person number, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, so I think they still have in mind it could take up to 100 people on Mars colony flights or something, but we don't know what the inside's going to look like, because how hard is life support for that?
Like a city bus.
Basically, the size of a large Freightliner truck, and you're going to put. I know it's 100 people in 0G, but that's got to be 100 of your very, very closest friends.
It's not a short trip if you're going to Mars either. I mean, you talk about people paying a lot of money for the space station. I don't think that what's going to kind of inhibit most people from wanting to go to Mars, if they have the means, is the cost. I think it's just, you're going to be away for so long from your family, your friends, your life, your planet. There are not going to be, I mean, maybe there are more people who will want to do that than I think there are, but that's a big leap to go to another planet and spend a few months out there. I mean, Starship could cut travel time down from the current 8 months or so from one planet to the other, but it's still going to be multiple months that you get there, multiple months to get back. Yeah, it's a big ask to go do that.
And can you imagine what that thing's going to smell like by the time they get there? I talk about old gym socks. I'm sorry, Tarek, go ahead. You have another question?
Well, yeah, you had a story recently, Mike, and Anthony, this is on line 52, actually. I just added it in there on our little document, where Elon wasn't just looking at, Mars or Saturn. Some of the renderings show Saturn or Jupiter that Starship is kind of flying around. But it says that Starship will go interstellar, right? Like leave our star system entirely. Does he really think that's something that they're going to go to?
I assume so. And he posted that on X not too long ago. He said like a future much larger version of Starship will go interstellar someday. And I mean, who even knows? People who are working on like interstellar flight concepts now, it's really, really hard. People might remember Breakthrough Starshot, and that was announced like 2016, I believe, and they're trying to come up with a way to use super powerful ground-based lasers to accelerate these little kind of laser sail equipped probes to get to Alpha Centauri in like 20 years or so. And that's like really, really hard. And these little laser sailing probes have bodies that are the size of like a postage stamp. And they just, yeah. So, and you're talking about a giant spacecraft that's even bigger than the current Starship that can carry people interstellar. I mean, we're like decades and decades away from that. Like that's really hard to even imagine with our current technology.
I thought landing rockets from space though was going to be hard, and then they do it like four times a week. So.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't think I'm going to see that in my lifetime. I mean, if we have enough time, human ingenuity is amazing, and we build on what we've learned in the past. And so never say never, but a lot of the stuff that we all dream of happening as like space fans, exploration fans, is just going to happen far in the future, sadly.
You try to imagine being in something that's basically the same size, although it would be larger. That's basically around the same size as the International Space Station for like 20 years. Because the probes you're talking about are basically like, flinging potato chips out with a laser, this thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they're actually the size of potato chips too.
I think maybe he got tired of talking about Mars and said, okay, I got to change the narrative here a little bit, but whatever.
We never actually mentioned too that Starship is not only the world's tallest rocket, it has the most engines, right, that have ever fired together on the first stage, at least for an American rocket, if not the
giant Soviet moon rocket that never flew successfully had they had about 30, like I believe, but that
20,
thing never
27 or something. Yeah, never got close.
It never flew, and the first stage of Starship Super Heavy has 33 Raptor engines.
33 engines.
And there are 6 on the upper stage spacecraft too. So like every fully integrated Starship that flies has got 39 Raptors on it.
That means that in 3 flight tests they have thrown away over 100 engines.
Yeah,
but
in these failed tests. Wow,
they can make them in like an afternoon now.
That is crazy.
It's not a big deal. And let's remind ourselves, still when you talk about companies like Aerojet Rocketdyne and others, making a rocket engine to them is a big, better part of a year deal. And here Elon is making them every couple of days, saying, just build another 30.
I think I just did the math. That's 6 engines. That's six Raptors on Starships, 33 on so that's 117 engines that they've in less than a year.
See,
they've spent on.
Tarek's got to show off because we've already demonstrated our math inabilities. He's now got to do, hey, look, I can do it too. Okay, look, I want to get this question in before it's too late.
Sure.
So we've got Yaseu Maezawa, is that his name?
I think it's Yusaku Maezawa.
Yusaku Maezawa, thank you. Who actually worked for, back in the 90s, doing a very low end commercial for Zozo, and then his life took off and mine sank, but at least financially, his profile. But, so he's going to take, 7 of his closest friends. I think Tim Dodd's on that flight, supposedly, right?
Yep.
Around the moon someday, sort of, kind of. Would you go?
On that flight or on any flight?
First question is on that flight, which is very early.
I would not go on that flight.
No,
I would. I mean, I'm kind of a careful coward kind of person. I want the system that I'm flying on to be extremely proven. I mean, like, I admire the people who go on these things, and I mean, somebody needs to do it. But I'd like to see Starship carry like a bunch of people successfully on a lot of missions, like a few dozen missions before I'd want to get on it. I mean, and that's not an indictment of SpaceX or Starship. I'd say the same about any spacecraft. It's just, it's such an inherently like energetic, potentially dangerous thing to do. It's a controlled explosion basically when you get on a rocket. So that's true of all spaceflight. I would just be wary of it. It's exciting, but I want to make sure I see the like vehicle that I'm getting on have a few dozen successful flights under its belt before I consider it.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I'd be much more interested in going with a high possibility of coming home in one piece than being early freight on it. And the other thing, I'd sit there, and you could do this much better than I could, Mike. I'd want to sit there and pan out, okay, you've got this volume, I don't know, what's the volume of the International Space Station? 28,000 cubic feet or something?
It's a 5-bedroom house.
It's like a big house. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got about the same amount of interior space as that with Starship. Much like the days of Jules Verne and the Journey to the Moon, I'd want to know how long you could breathe that air if nothing works after launch. Right?
Yeah.
We're on our way to the moon. We can't turn around. How long will people? It's like doing the same thing in a submarine. All right, stop whining, Rod. Mike, I want to thank you for coming and for leading us through the Starship's orbital feat, FEAT, as Tarek pointed out in addition. I am, of course, Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief at Astro Magazine, and I'm here with Tarek, and we want to thank Mike for joining us. Don't forget to check out space.com, the websites in the name, and the National Space Society at NSS.org. Both are good places to satisfy your spaceflight cravings. And Mike, because I could do it here in public and embarrass you in front of everybody, I would love to invite you to write for Ad Astra someday. I don't think we pay as well as space.com, but just think of the glory of being in print.
Yeah.
Beautiful, slick cover. Anyway, that's the
It's a very rare privilege these days to have your work in print.
Becoming rarer and rarer as things are going. Yeah. So, Mike, where can we stay abreast of your various space flight efforts?
Just basically come to space.com. You can search for my stories on our site and get like links to my very boring Twitter account, which I almost never update. But that's all there. Yeah.
And we can read your book.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. I would not be angry about that if people wanted to do that.
So for those of you watching this on video, we've got an image of that up. It's called Out There. You can buy it on Amazon and everywhere else books are sold. And if you do, make sure you leave a review, because we authors live and die by our Amazon reviews. Tarek, where can we find you enjoying your newly abilified Star Trek chair?
That's right. Well, you can find me also at space.com, finding out what the new big space thing is, or on the Twitter at Tarek J. Malik. And if you're at PAX East this weekend in Boston, say hi. I'm going to go see what's all the new space games that are coming out there. It's going to be fun. So,
what the heck is PAX East?
PAX East. It's like a gaming convention.
Is it like what E3 used to be?
It's much smaller than E3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But E3 was a lot of fun when it was around.
E3 was weird. There were way too many bikinis there for something that was supposed to be about video games.
They did stop that.
It was smart of them. I mean, it certainly worked, but it was weird. All right. And of course, you can find me at pilebooks.com or at astromagazine.com. Please don't forget to drop us a line at twis@twit.tv. That's TWIS at twit.tv. We welcome your comments, suggestions, and ideas. And I swear next week, Tarek, I'm going to read some fan mail because we get a bunch of it every week, and we got a really lovely note that I was going to read this week, but I burned. Should I do it anyway? It'll only take a second. This came in from Julie Lynn Cole. I love this one. I mean, I love a lot of them, but said, "Hi guys, you don't know it, but you are part of our weekly routine. My husband indulges my space cravings on Friday nights in our home are called Space Night. Thanks to you guys. We listen as we go to sleep. And if we are snoring, don't take it personally. Love you guys. Thank you for sharing your work with us on Space Night."
Oh,
that's very sweet.
Space nights are the best nights. So.
Yeah, there's a little more mainly about the Nukes in Space episode, but that was the important stuff. Thank you, Julie. That was lovely. And, we pride ourselves on being able to put people to sleep. So, speaking of which, new episodes of this podcast publish every Friday on your favorite podcatcher. So please make sure to subscribe, tell your friends, give us reviews, and send us hugs and kisses. 5 stars or a thumbs up will do nicely. You can also head to our website at twit.tv/twists. Also, of course, as always, don't forget that you can get all the great programming on the Twit Network ad-free on Club Twit, as well as some extras that are only available there for just $7 per month. I think, Tarek, now that you've gotten your chair fixed, we should actually make a little GIF loop of you doing your fall. That would be kind of cool. We could put that up in the Discord. And of course, if you join Club Twit, you also get access to the Discord, which is a lot of fun. Just $7 a month. What else can you get for $7 a month that's going to approach that level of joy? You can also follow the Twit Tech Podcast Network at Twit on Twitter and on Facebook, and twit.tv on Instagram. Thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Tarek. And we'll see you next time.